Since the earliest days of civilization, humanity has sought to make the invisible tangible. Temples, shrines, and sacred groves became more than places of worship, they became repositories of power, where human belief could be concentrated, solidified, and even weaponized. Among these spaces, certain objects rose above all else, artifacts imbued not merely with craftsmanship, but with faith itself. These relics were said to contain divine essence, to bridge the mortal and the eternal, and to bend fortune in favor of those who possessed them. Yet the deeper one looks into history, the clearer it becomes. Objects that were meant to inspire awe often became instruments of obsession, catalysts for conflict, and symbols that nations would die to possess. Consider, for a moment, the Ark of the Covenant, described in ancient texts as a gold-covered chest containing the very law of God. Its mere presence could turn the tide of battle, its absence could demoralize an entire people. For the Israelites, it was more than sacred, it was a tangible promise of divine guidance and protection. Across cultures and continents, similar beliefs emerged. In Asia, small relics of the Buddha were treated as living embodiments of enlightenment. In medieval Europe, the true cross and fragments of saints' bodies became central to political and spiritual authority. The unifying thread is the same: when belief crystallizes into a physical form, it gains a power that extends far beyond what can be measured by coins, armies, or even logic. But these objects were not merely symbols. They carried with them narratives, rituals, and expectations. Possessing a sacred artifact was often seen as a direct line to the divine, a guarantee that heaven itself would intervene in human affairs. Kings and generals claimed victory after touching these objects, believing that divine favor had chosen them. And yet, such beliefs often unleashed the opposite: envy, betrayal, and war. Where one kingdom gained a relic, another plotted to take it, believing their own survival and legitimacy depended on it. Entire civilizations were shaped by the search for these objects, and countless lives were consumed along the way. Even today, long after the relics have vanished, been hidden, or locked behind museum glass, the stories endure. Political disputes, religious fervor, and cultural identity continue to orbit around these symbols. They are more than objects, they are vessels of human longing, ambition, and fear. They are proof that what is sacred to one can be irresistible to another, and that obsession can outlive generations. In the shadows of this history, one truth becomes unavoidable: sacred artifacts are never just pieces of metal, stone, or wood. They are mirrors, reflecting not only the divine, but the deepest ambitions and darkest fears of the people who seek them. Throughout history, few forces have proven as potent, or as perilous, as faith bound to an object. A relic could unite armies, define a nation's identity, or plunge entire civilizations into chaos. For behind the silent stillness of these sacred artifacts, an invisible power stirred, the belief that the divine itself could be commanded, carried, or conquered. And again, that belief became the spark that set empires aflame. Among the most enduring mysteries of antiquity stands the Ark of the Covenant. Described as a vessel of divine energy, it was said to march before the armies of Israel, splitting rivers, striking fear into the hearts of their enemies, and collapsing city walls with unseen force. To touch it was death, to lose it was despair. The Ark's legend stretches across millennia, surviving conquest, exile, and disappearance. When the temple in Jerusalem fell, so too did the certainty of its location, and thus was born one of history's greatest obsessions. From the hills of Ethiopia to the ruins of the Holy City, whispers persist that the Ark still lies hidden, guarded by those chosen to protect it from unworthy hands. Each generation has sent seekers and soldiers to find it, convinced that its rediscovery could alter the fate of the world. Then there is the Holy Lance, also known as the Spear of Destiny, the weapon said to have pierced the side of Christ during the crucifixion. It passed through centuries like a shadow, from the hands of Constantine the Great to the courts of the Holy Roman Empire. Possession of the lance became a divine endorsement, a symbol that the wielder ruled not merely by earthly authority, but by celestial command. Charlemagne was said to have carried it into more than 40 victorious battles. Centuries later, it rested in Vienna, where its legend would ensnare another man obsessed with destiny, Adolf Hitler. He believed that whoever held the spear would hold the world, and his invasion of Austria in 1938 ensured it fell once again into his possession. Whether he sought faith or power is debatable, but history remembers the result: another empire risen in the name of divine right, and millions of lives consumed by its fire. Beyond the Western world, other cultures told their own tales of sacred power. In the epic poetry of Finland, the Sampo, a mysterious, otherworldly mill, was said to grant unending prosperity to its owner. Yet even among gods and heroes, its creation led to greed, theft, and war. Across the Buddhist kingdoms of Southeast Asia, relics of the Buddha, a tooth, a bone, or a sacred robe, became more than spiritual treasures. They were the very soul of legitimacy. To hold such a relic was to rule by divine sanction, to lose it was to lose the right to govern. Wars erupted not for land or wealth, but for fragments of enlightenment. The pattern repeats across continents and centuries. A relic emerges. Faith builds around it. Then ambition enters, followed by envy, and soon the relic becomes both prize and pretext. Kings claim it as destiny, generals as necessity, and the faithful as proof. The object itself never changes, but what it awakens in humankind does. These artifacts, though silent and still, became unseen catalysts, invisible forces that bent history's path. And as each was fought over, lost, and rediscovered in legend, they revealed something deeper. The true danger of relics lies not in their existence, but in humanity's relentless need to possess the divine. The medieval world was a crucible of faith and fire, an age when belief could raise armies, crown kings, and send entire generations marching toward distant horizons. It was here that the pursuit of sacred artifacts reached its most fevered pitch. Across Europe, whispers of relics, the true cross, the Holy Grail, the crown of thorns, stirred a collective yearning so powerful it transcended reason. The world was divided not only by borders, but by the dream of holding what was once divine. When the First Crusade was called in 1095, it was framed as a sacred mission, to reclaim the Holy Land, to liberate Jerusalem from the infidel, to restore God's presence to its rightful throne. But beneath the prayers and banners lay another hunger. Tales spread that within Jerusalem's walls rested relics of unimaginable power, fragments of the true cross that had borne Christ's body, the lance that pierced his side, the shroud that had wrapped him in death. For thousands, these relics were not merely objects, they were redemption made real, salvation forged in wood and iron. And so, men left their homes, their families, and their lives behind, believing that to touch the sacred was to touch eternity itself. Yet the Crusades did not only sanctify faith, they sanctified conquest. What began as pilgrimage soon became empire. Kings and knights saw opportunity in the name of God, and relics became their proof of divine favor. When Baldwin of Boulogne seized Edessa, he claimed victory through the protection of the Holy Lance. When the true cross was paraded before the armies of Jerusalem, men fell to their knees and swore that heaven itself marched beside them. And when Saladin captured that same cross at the Battle of Hattin, the symbol of Christ's triumph became the banner of Muslim victory, a testament that even the sacred could shift allegiance when wielded by human hands. As the centuries passed, the relic trade flourished. Fragments of saints' bones, drops of holy blood, and slivers of divine wood circulated across Europe like currency. Cathedrals rose to house them, entire cities competed to possess them. Faith became spectacle, and relics, once symbols of transcendence, became instruments of political theater. Monarchs and popes used them to rally loyalty, to justify wars, and to cement authority. The more an object promised divine power, the more blood was shed to claim it. When the medieval age gave way to the era of empires, the obsession evolved but did not fade. The European powers that sailed beyond their shores carried not only guns and gold, but a belief that their conquest was sanctioned by heaven. Missionaries accompanied armies, and relics, old and new, were used to legitimize domination. Sacred idols were seized from temples in India, relics of the Buddha taken from monasteries, ancestral spirits of Africa locked in glass cases. To the conquerors, these objects were trophies of civilization. To the conquered, they were the heart of their world, stolen and desecrated. Museums became the new cathedrals of empire. In their halls, the plundered sacred was stripped of context, displayed as curiosity, and renamed as artifact. The power that once inspired worship now served another master: prestige. Yet even behind glass, these relics retained a quiet defiance. Each one carried the weight of memory, whispering of the hands that had crafted it, the prayers that had touched it, and the wars that had been fought because of it. Through all this, one truth persisted: humanity's quest for the divine has never been about finding heaven, it has been about proving who deserves to hold it. There is a strange irony in the nature of sacred artifacts: their greatest influence often begins the moment they are lost. Across centuries, the disappearance of holy objects has created more turmoil than their presence ever did. It is as if absence itself becomes sacred, a void filled not by truth, but by longing. In the echo of what is missing, humanity finds both madness and meaning. When the Ark of the Covenant vanished from the world stage, it did not fade from history, it multiplied within it. Every empire that rose in the Middle East claimed to know its secret resting place. Ethiopian monks guarded chapels said to conceal it, refusing all entry. In Jerusalem, beneath layers of stone and legend, entire generations dug, prayed, and bled to find it. In the 20th century, adventurers, soldiers, and scholars alike searched for it, convinced that rediscovering the Ark could unlock divine power or reshape world order. The fact that it remains missing only strengthens its hold, because in mystery lies endless belief. The same is true for the Holy Grail, that most elusive of relics. Whether seen as a cup, a stone, or a symbol of divine knowledge, its legend has survived wars, religions, and revolutions. Medieval knights rode into oblivion seeking it, convinced it would redeem the sins of mankind. In their failure, the Grail became more than an object, it became a mirror of humanity's eternal yearning for purity in a corrupted world. Its absence invites interpretation, its myth invites obsession, and its promise remains just far enough beyond reach to keep us chasing it. History shows that the missing sacred is often more dangerous than the found. What cannot be seen must be imagined, and imagination has no boundaries. The disappearance of a relic gives birth to myth, and myth gives birth to movements. Lost objects have inspired secret orders, nationalist ideologies, and violent crusades built entirely on speculation. The legend of a vanished relic can spark 1,000 wars, because its power lies not in proof, but in possibility. In the modern age, this phenomenon persists, transformed, but not diminished. Conspiracy theories surround hidden treasures of the Vatican, lost Nazi relics, and secret temples said to guard divine weapons. Even in the age of satellites and science, the longing for something sacred and unseen endures. For what humanity truly fears is not that the divine has been lost, but that it was never there at all. The curse of the lost relic, then, is not supernatural. It is psychological. It is the human inability to let go of the idea that something greater once walked among us, and that if we could only find it again, everything broken could be restored. That hope is both beautiful and perilous. It binds civilizations together, and it tears them apart. And in the shadows of that longing, new myths continue to grow, waiting for their next believer. Today, the world stands at a crossroads between reverence and reckoning. For centuries, sacred relics were used to divide, to conquer, to justify. Yet now, for the first time in generations, humanity is beginning to look backward, not with the hunger of conquest, but with the humility of reflection. The power that once sparked wars is being reimagined as a force for healing. Across continents, museums, governments, and faith communities are confronting uncomfortable truths. The relics that fill European galleries and private collections, statues torn from temples, icons stripped from altars, bones of saints carried across oceans, are being re-examined not as trophies of civilization, but as testaments of loss. Some are being returned to their origins, carried home to the lands that once revered them. Buddhist relics have been repatriated to monasteries in Myanmar and Sri Lanka. Benin bronzes, taken during colonial plunder, are finally being returned to Nigeria. And Christian relics, once scattered through war and trade, are being reunited with the churches that first sheltered them. This movement is more than political, it is spiritual. Each act of restitution restores not only an object, but a fragment of dignity to those from whom it was taken. It allows history to breathe again, unshackled from ownership, rediscovered in meaning. And yet, these gestures of reconciliation also remind us that the scars of sacred conflict cannot be erased. They can only be understood. For the deeper lesson of these relics is not about possession, but about connection. They reveal that what humanity calls sacred has always been an expression of its longing to understand the unseen, to grasp eternity through something mortal, to turn mystery into matter. That longing can lead to enlightenment or destruction. The choice lies not in the object, but in the soul that seeks it. In our own age, perhaps these ancient artifacts hold one last purpose, not as weapons of faith, but as bridges between worlds. Between the believer and the skeptic. Between conqueror and conquered. Between the living and the memory of the dead. The relics that once fueled division now challenge us to see ourselves in their reflection, to recognize how faith and fear have always walked hand in hand. And as the modern world accelerates into an age of technology and amnesia, their quiet endurance reminds us that power, no matter how divine, is always fragile when placed in human hands. As centuries pass, the dust of time settles over the battlegrounds where faith once burned, yet the echoes remain. The relics, those lost, stolen, and rediscovered, still whisper through the corridors of history. Their stories have outlived kings and crusaders, emperors and empires. And though their light may now rest behind museum glass or beneath forgotten ruins, the power they once held still pulses quietly within the human soul. Because the truth is this, the sacred never truly disappears. It changes form, slipping from relic to memory, from memory to myth, and from myth back into belief. Every civilization, no matter how advanced, continues to search for meaning in the physical, a relic, a symbol, a sign. It is the same hunger that drove the Israelites to carry the ark into battle, that sent knights to die for the Grail, that inspired empires to plunder temples in the name of faith. We have changed the weapons, but not the longing. The same desire that built cathedrals now builds nations, the same need that sought divine proof in gold and would now searches for it in identity and ideology. The relics, in their silence, reveal what humanity refuses to admit, that the line between worship and war, between faith and possession, is perilously thin. And perhaps that is the final lesson the sacred leaves behind. Every time humanity touches something it believes to be divine, it is forced to confront its own reflection. The wars for relics were never just about objects, they were about us, about our fear of insignificance, our hunger for permanence, our desperate need to hold something eternal in our mortal hands. The relics themselves were never guilty. They were mirrors, showing us both the beauty and the violence of our own devotion. Now, in this new age of light and information, the question lingers, will we keep using the sacred to divide, or will we finally learn from the centuries of fire it has left behind? Around the world, the return of ancient relics marks not just restitution, but repentance. It is an acknowledgement that faith must heal what it once destroyed, that reverence without humility leads only to ruin. If these artifacts could speak, they would not demand worship, they would ask for understanding. They would tell us that holiness is not in gold, nor in blood, but in remembrance, in the act of seeing what once was and choosing not to repeat it. Because in the end, every relic, every crusade, every vanished treasure has carried the same hidden message, that power without wisdom is a curse, and faith without compassion is a weapon. The sacred does not belong to one people, one church, or one empire, it belongs to the collective heartbeat of humanity. So as the centuries turn and the stories fade into legend, the choice remains ours. The relics have spoken through history, through glory and devastation alike. Now it is our turn to listen. If this story made you see the past not as something buried, but as something still breathing, share it with someone you love, because the wars of faith were never just battles of swords, they were battles of meaning, of identity, of the human heart. And their lessons still shape the world we walk through today. So if you believe that the echoes of history still influence our world, subscribe for more stories that continue to shape humanity's destiny.